Now let us see some interview or Viva questions generally asked for web services. So what are web services? Web services are open standard XML, SOAP, HTTP, etc., which is based these things based web applications that interact with other web applications for the purpose of exchanging data. So web services can convert your existing applications into web applications. What are the features of web services? These are the features of web services. It is available over the internet or private intranet networks. It is using a standardized XML messaging system. So it is not tied to any OS or programming language. It is self-describing via common XML grammar, and it is discoverable via simple find mechanism. What are the components of web services? The basic web services platform is XML plus HTTP, and all the standard web services work using these components. So that is Simple Object Access Protocol, and UDDI, Universal Description Discovery and Integration, and WSDL, that is Web Services Definition Language. So how does a web service work? A web service enables communication among various applications by using open standards such as HTML, XML, WSDL, and SOAP. So you can build a Java-based web service on Solaris that is accessible from your Visual Basic program that runs on Windows, right? Java to Windows. And you can also use your C# to build a new web service on Windows that can be invoked from your web application that is based on JSP and runs on Linux. What is the purpose of XML in web service? A web service takes the help of XML to tag the data and format the data. What is the purpose of SOAP? SOAP in a web service. A web service takes the help of SOAP to transfer the message, because the message has to be sent also. So it takes SOAP. And what is the purpose? This is again a question. What is the purpose of WSDL in a web service? So web service takes the help of WSDL to describe the availability of service. And again, question is there. What are the benefits of web services? So these are the benefits of web services. Exposing the existing function on the network means web services allows you to expose the functionality of your existing code over the network. So once it is exposed to the network, other application can use the functionality of your program. Then interoperability. Web services allow various applications to talk together, to communicate it together to each other and share data and share among themselves. And standardized protocol. Web services uses standardized industry standard protocol for the communication. And all the four layers, service transport, XML messaging, service description, and service discovery layers, use well-defined protocols in the web services protocol stack. And again, low cost of communication. Web services uses SOAP over HTTP protocol. Okay, it uses SOAP over HTTP protocol, so you can use your existing low cost or internet for implementing web services. So what do you mean by interoperability of web services? Web services allow various applications to talk to each other and share data and services among themselves. Other applications can also use web services. For example, a VB or .NET application can talk to Java web services and vice versa. So web services are used to make application platform and technology independent. What do you mean by loosely coupled architecture of web services? A consumer of web services is not tied at all to the web services directly. A web service interface can change over time without compromising the client's ability to interact with the service. So a tightly coupled system implies that a client and server logic are so tightly together to another that if one interface changes, the other has to be changed or updated. So adopting a loosely coupled architecture tends to make software system more manageable and allows a simple integration between different systems. Do web services support this RPCs also, remote procedure calls? Web services allow clients to invoke procedures, functions, and methods on remote objects using an XML-based protocol. So remote procedure expose inputs and output parameters that a web service must support. And component development through this enterprise Java beans, EJBs, and .NET components have increasingly become a part of architecture and enterprise deployments over the past couple of years. So both technologies are distributed and accessible through a variety of RPC mechanisms. So this web services does support this or provide RPCs. A web service supports RPC by providing service of its own. equivalently to those the traditional component or by translating incoming invocation into the invocation of EJB or .NET component. Now the question comes, what are the behavioral characteristics of web services? Web services has these behavioral characteristics. First of all, it is XML based. Means web services uses XML at data representation and data transportation layer, and this is loosely coupled. Means a consumer or a web service is not tied to that web service directly. It is coarse grained. Means business and the interfaces that they expose should be coarse grained. Means web technology provides a natural way of defining a coarse grained services that accesses the right amount of business logic. An ability to be synchronous and asynchronous. Means asynchronous clients retrieve their result at a later point in time, while synchronous clients receive their result when the service has completed. So asynchronous capability is key factor in enabling loosely coupled systems. And supports this RPC. A web service supports RPC by providing services of its own equivalent to those of the traditional component, as I just indicated, translating incoming invocation into an invocation of EJB or a .NET component. Then support document exchange. Means web services support the transparent exchange of document to facilitate business integration. So what are the benefits of having XML based web services? User can is benefited a lot, because using XML eliminates any networking, operating system or platform binding. So web services based applications are highly interoperable application at their core level. Now coming to what is the benefit of web services being loosely coupled. Again the same question, but this is an important question. A web service interface can change over time without compromising the client's ability to interact with the services. So this is what we have just discussed. What is synchronicity? Synchronicity refers to the binding of the client to the execution of the service. So binding of the client to the execution of service is synchronicity. In synchronous invocation, the client blocks and waits for the service to complete its operation before continuing. An asynchronous operation follows a client to invoke a service and then execute other functions. Then what are the core rules in web service architecture? There are three major rules within the web service architecture. A service provider is there, a service requester is there, and service registry is there. So what is the purpose of service provider in web service architecture? This is the provider of the web service. Means the service provider implements the service and makes it available on the internet. What is the purpose of service requester in web service architecture? Now this is any consumer of the web service. So a requester utilizes the existing web service by opening a network connection and sending an XML request. What is the purpose of service registry in web service architecture? This is logically centralized directory of services. The registry provides a central base where developers can publish new services or find existing ones. So it is therefore serves as a centralized clearinghouse for companies and their services. What are the core layers of web services protocol stack? The web services protocol stack is still evolving. So it has four major layers now. Service transport, XML messaging, service description and service discovery. What is the purpose of service transport layer in web service protocol stack? Now, the purpose of this service transport layer, this layer is responsible for transporting message between applications. So currently these layers include HTTP, SMTP, FTP and newer protocols such as BEP, like Block Extensible Exchange Protocol. What is the purpose of XML messaging layer in this XML messaging layer in web service protocol stack? This layer is responsible for encoding message in a common XML format so that message can be understood in either end. Currently this layer includes XML, RCP and so on. What is the purpose of service description layer in web service protocol stack? Now this layer, service description layer, is responsible for describing the public interface to a specific web service. Okay, so service description is handled via the web service description language WSDL. What is the purpose of service discovery layer in web service protocol stack? Now discovery is there. So this layer is responsible for centralizing services into common registry and providing easy publish and find functionality. Currently, service discovery is handled via universal description, discovery and integration. Universal description, discovery and integration. What does HTTP stand for? HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And what is HTTP? Currently, HTTP is the most popular option for service transport, and HTTP is simple, stable, and widely deployed. Furthermore, most firewall allow HTTP traffic. This allows XML, RPC, or SOAP messages to masquerade as HTTP messages. What does this beech stand for? This beech stands for Block Extensible Exchange Protocol, which is B. So what is B? This is a promising alternative to HTTP. And BEEP is a new Internet Engineering Task Force IETA framework for building a new protocol. BEEP is layered directly on TCP and includes a number of built-in features including a nation handshake protocol, authentication, security and error handling. So using BEEP, one can create new protocols for a variety of applications including instant messaging, file transfer and content syndication and network management. What is XML-RPC? XML-RPC is a simple protocol that uses XML messages to perform RPCs. What or how request is sent in XML-RPC? Requests are encoded in XML and sent via HTTP post. How response is sent in this XML-RPC? This we have first is how request is sent in XML-RPC, and now how response is sent in XML-RPC. So XML responses are embedded into the body of HTTP response. What are the features of XML-RPC? These are the features of XML-RPC. XML-RPC is a simple protocol that uses XML messages to perform RPCs. Requests are encoded in XML and sent via HTTP post. And XML responses are embedded in the body of HTTP response. So XML RCP is platform independent, and XML RPC allows diverse applications to communicate. A Java client can speak XML RPC to a Perl server, and XML RPC is the easiest way to get started with the web services. Now comes the question: what is SOAP and what SOAP stands for? SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. So what is SOAP? SOAP is an XML-based protocol for exchanging information between computers. So what are the features of SOAP? These are the features of SOAP. SOAP is a communication protocol. SOAP, Simple Access Object Protocol, is a communication protocol. Is communication between application, and SOAP is a format for sending messages. SOAP is designed to communicate via internet. SOAP is a platform independent. SOAP is language independent. SOAP is simple and extensible. And SOAP allows you to go around firewalls. SOAP will be developed as developed as a W3C standard. This is important. Is SOAP platform dependent? Yes, of course. What WSDL stands for? This WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. So what is WSDL? WSDL is again an XML-based language for describing web services and how to access them. And what are the features of WSDL? These are the features. WS was developed jointly by Microsoft and IBM. And WSDL is an XML-based protocol for information interchange in decentralized and distributed environments. WSDL is the standard format for describing a web service. WSDL definition describes how to access a web service and what operation it will perform. WSDL is a language for describing how to interface with XML-based services. WSDL is an integral part of UDDI and XML-based worldwide business registry. WSDL is the language for UDDI users, and WSDL is pronounced as WSDL and spelled out as WSDL. What UDDI stands for? UDDI stands for Universal Description, Discovery and Integration. Now what is UDDI? UDDI is an XML-based standard for describing, publishing and finding web services. So what are the features of UDDI? These are the features of UDDI. UDDI is a specification for distributed registry of web services. UDDI is platform independent, open framework. UDDI can communicate via SOAP, via Corba and Java RMI protocol. And UDDI uses WSDL to describe interfaces to web services, and UDDI is seen with SOAP and WSDL as one of the three foundation standards for web services. So UDDI, SOAP and WSDL. UDDI is an open industry initiative enabling businesses to discover each other and define how they interact on or over the internet. What are the primary security issues with web services? Of course, confidentiality, authentication, and network security. So, which component of web service describes interface to web services? It is UDDI, which describes interfaces to the web services. Which language UDDI uses? WSDL UDDI uses. Is XML RPC platform independent? No, XML RPC is platform independent. If a client sends an XML request to a server, we can ensure that the communication. How can we ensure that the communication remains confidential? Yes, and as XML, RPC, and so run primarily on top of HTTP, and HTTP can support for SSL, that is Secured Socket Layers, and communication can be encrypted via SSL. So, if a client connects to a web service, how do we identify the user? Is the user authorized to use the service or not? The following options, these are the options that can be considered, but there is no clear consensus on strong authentication scheme. HTTP includes built-in support for basic and digest authentication, and services can therefore be protected in much the same manner as HTML documents are currently protected. Now, SOAP digital signature, SOAP DSIG, it leverages public key cryptography to digitally sign SOAP messages and enables the client or server to validate the identity of the other party. So, the Organization of the Advancement of Structured Information Standard, the OSIS, is working on the security assertion markup language, that is SAML. What do you mean by web services manageability? Web services manageability is defined as a set of capabilities for discovering the existence, availability, health, performance, usage, as well as the control and configuration of a web services within the web service architecture. So, as a web service becomes pervasive and critical to business operations, the task of managing and implementing them is imperative to the success of business operations. How to handle network security threat in web services? There are two possible solutions. Filter out all HTTP post requests that set their context type to text XML. Another alternative is to filter SOAP action HTTP header attribute. Now this question is again, so let me in short go through it. What is web service? Many people and companies have debated that exact definition of web services. At a minimum, however, web service is any piece of software that makes it available on the internet and use a standardized XML messaging system. So XML is used to encode all communication of web service. For example, a client invokes a web service by sending XML message, then waits for a corresponding XML response. Because all communication is in XML, web services are not tied to any operating system or programming language. Java can talk to Perl, Windows can talk to Unix. So beyond this basic definition, web services may also have two additional properties. First, web services can have a public interface defined in a common XML grammar. The interface describes all the methods available to client and specifies the signature of each method. So currently, interface definition is accomplished via the web service description language, that is WSDL. Second, if you create a web service, there should be some relatively simple mechanism for you to publish this tag. Likewise, there should be some simple mechanism for interested parties to locate the service and locate it public interface. So the most prominent is UDDI. Web services currently run in wide gamut for news, syndication, stock market data to weather report and package tracking systems. So for a quick look at the range of web services currently available, you can check out this X methods directory of web services. What is new about web services? People have been using RPCs for some time now, and they long ago discovered how to send such calls over HTTP. So what is really new about web services? The answer is XML. XML lies on the core web services and provides a common language for describing RPCs, web services, and web service directory. Prior to XML, one could share data among different applications, but XML make these so much easier to do. The same way, one can share services and code without web services, but XML make it easier to do these as well. By standardizing an XML or non-XML, different applications can more easily talk to one another, and this makes software a whole lot more interesting. I keep reading about web services, but I can never actually see one. Can you show me a real web service in action? So if you want more intuitive feel of web services, try out this IBM Web Services browser rather than IBM Alpha or Suite. So the browser provides a series of web services, or if you are a GIS guy or cartography guy, you can easily access it through maps and DEMs and vectors through web services. So what is web service protocol stack? Again, this we have discussed in long stretch. This is also we have seen XML RPC. XML RPC is a protocol that uses XML message to perform remote procedure calls. So these requests are encoded in XML they are sent via post. So I'm not going to detail. I've just shown the example. That is why these are the examples. What is SOAP again? SOAP is an XML-based protocol for exchanging information within computer. So although SOAP can be used in a variety of messaging systems and can be delivered via a variety of transport protocols, the main focus of SOAP is remote procedure call, which is transported via HTTP. Like XML RPC, SOAP is platform independent and therefore enable diverse applications to communicate with one another. So this is a quick sense of SOAP. Here is a sample of SOAP request to a weather service. Now, what is WSDL? Again, we have seen this. This is an example. The Web Services Description Language (WSDL) currently represents the service description layer within Web Service Protocol stack. So, in a nutshell, WSDL is an XML grammar for specifying the public interface for a web service. So, this public service can include this information on all publicly available functions, data type information for all XML messages, and building information about specific transport protocol to use, address information for authenticating the specific service. So WSDL is not necessarily tied to specific XML messaging system, but it does include built-in extension for describing the SOAP services. This is an example. What is UDDI? UDDI is Universal Description, Discovery and Integration, and UDDI is developed by various giants. UDDI is basically, you want to have a simple directory where you can find this web services. How do I get started with web services? The easiest way to get started with web services is to learn XML RPC, and there are various things as I suggested. Please read this, and also if you are a cartography, of course, when you work on Google Maps, you see that web services are used. Does this W3C support any web service standard? W3C is actively pursuing standardization of web service protocol. In this year, W3C established an XML protocol activity. The goal of group is to establish a formal standard for SOAP, and the draft version is currently under review, and the